Well, welcome everyone to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. I am your host and resource for self-care and mindfulness. And today I have with us this beautiful lady, Dawn Rishard, also known as the Queen of Intimacy. She's got over 20 years of experience as a licensed professional counselor in marriage and family systems, and she's helped countless couples navigate their relationships. And on her own journey of self-discovery and empowerment, choosing to prioritize self-worth over a 27-year marriage led her to become a conscious love coach and a transformational love and relationship speaker. Dawn, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today.
Thank you for having me. While the intro was going, I was like, da, 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 da.
I know, it's like, I know, happy place. you and I both like our music and, dancing. Yeah. So tell me, I mean, that's quite a lot that you went through, but what led you to prioritize your self-worth over a long-term marriage and choose divorce? Can you share with everybody a little bit of your journey and how that came about?
Yeah. So I've always been a relationship person. I mean, my parents have been married for 60 years. They met in college. They got married right after college. They moved away, blah, blah, blah. And so I just love, their love story. And so I thought I would create my own. So when I got married, I married this great guy. He's handsome, funny, smart, athletic, super responsible, very communicative, blah, blah, blah. And we had this beautiful, dream of creating a life together. And what happened along the way, I feel like he's super strong and independent, and I'm super strong and independent. And I feel like he thought maybe I would acquiesce to him, because we went to counseling twice before we were married, like 15 years. And both counselors said to him, could you control her before you got married? What made you think that you could do that after you got married?
Right.
And so we just had a lot of like power struggles and emotional outbursts. And I feel like he had a lot of issues from his childhood that he wasn't really willing to address. And some things came up for me that I was like, oh, I need to address these things. And so we just went through this roller coaster ride. I went to Al-Anon for 5 years because he had some addictive tendencies. And I had a friend say, oh, he sounds like an addict. I was like, well, he doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs. Well, there are other kind of addictions,
Yep.
And so it was like the first time I went to this Al-Anon meeting, somebody said, oh yeah, I'm tired of riding on my partner's emotional roller coaster. And I started crying, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not the only one who's experiencing this, because I thought that maybe I was crazy. Or he would always say to me, you're too sensitive. And, you're too sensitive. Don't take it personally. And I was like, I am sensitive. That's one of my superpowers, but you are not honoring that. And so there were just so many instances of disrespect, disregard, invalidation, lack of care and concern for my own feelings, disagreements, fights, arguments. And 27 years is a long time to constantly feel that stress.
Yeah, that is a long time.
Yeah. So like right before I decided to get divorced, my oldest son, I felt, was going through depression. Then like the next year, my second son, he had vertigo for 6 months, and then he had mono for 6 months. And then like the following year, my daughter was having panic attacks. And I was like, all of this chaos and stress and tension is manifesting in them physically. And myself, I was just feeling so down and depressed and hopeless. And we did go back to therapy and 2 more times, which sort of validated my experience. But I felt like he never really took responsibility for his part. I certainly screwed up. I was, can I say bitch on this?
I think you just did. So.
I was a bitch sometimes. And, because of this cycle of, you know, it, which came first, the chicken or the egg? It doesn't matter, right? But
Right.
it's like, okay, I had to look at myself and say, what's my part in this? And how can I be different? How do I need to show up differently and take responsibility for the crap that I was responsible for? But I never really felt like he did. And so there was this constant blame game and judgment. Well, if you hadn't, then we wouldn't be in this mess. And it's like, wait a second, what about all the shit you did? Oops. What about all the stuff you did?
Stuff. Yes.
So I just got to this point where I was like, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. And I don't want my kids, even though this has been their normal, because we used to fight a lot, like a lot. And I didn't want my kids to think that this is the way a marriage should be. I mean, my family of origin, like I said, my parents are still together. We had disagreements, but we never yelled at each other. We were never disrespectful. Even if we said something hurtful, we always took responsibility and apologized and said, hey, I'm really sorry. That was hurtful, whether it was intentional or not. And that was something that he rarely did. And so I just thought, I want to be an example to my kids of what boundaries are.
Yeah.
Excuse me, what compassion is, what forgiveness is. And I want them, I didn't want my boys to think that the way their dad treated me was the way that they should treat a woman in their life. And for sure, I did not want my daughter to be treated in the same way that he treated me. And I felt like if he stayed, that she would just accept that kind of behavior. And I said, I don't want that for her. And so I don't want it for me.
Yeah.
I want all of us to experience peace and joy and happiness. And we had a lot of laughs. I mean, he's funny. We had a lot of laughs. And we had good times. It's never black and white, but there was just this overarching feeling of being disrespected and disregarded and not honored in my marriage. And those were the vows we made.
Right.
And so I just said, you know what? I need to take care of myself. I need to honor myself. I need to do what's right for me for the rest of my life. Because, I think a lot of times when people are in these kind of relationships, people stay for all sorts of reasons. And they may live out the rest of their life, as roommates. And I did not want to live like that. It's like, I want a partner. I want somebody who's encouraging me and supporting me and who is a rock for me and who fights for me, not against me. And I oftentimes felt like we were just in a boxing ring, boxing each other. And it's like, oh, you're the winner of this one. I'm the winner of this one. And the relationship loses. So it's like, no, I need to take care of myself. I need to take care of my kids. I need to create a sense of peace for myself and create a beautiful life and let him create his own beautiful life.
Right. Yeah. And that takes a lot. That's not easy, to do.
No, no, it's not.
Mean, I have not had to go through that. I mean, I've gone through a loss of losing someone, not that, but I can't imagine that can't possibly be easy, because I know how I felt after losing someone after only 14 years and 3 months. And that was from a death. This is, a divorce, but still when you have that much time invested in someone, it makes it extremely difficult.
Well, and it's interesting, Laura. I mean, I said I really honor you for your grief. That must have been so awful. I can't even imagine how that was for you, to lose somebody that you love so much. And divorce is really a death. I mean, it's not a physical death, but it's an emotional death. It's an emotional separation and a grief, which I don't think a lot of people really acknowledge that. It's the loss of your hopes and dreams. It's the loss of your sense of identity. It's the loss of what you thought your life would be like. And so I had to go through a really long healing journey because I questioned my own identity. I questioned my own sense of self-worth. I questioned all the things I did or didn't do. I questioned myself because of my counseling background. It's like, why couldn't I fix this? I should be able to fix this.
Isn't it amazing how we seem to be able to help others and maybe help guide others, but then but we don't always recognize it or know how to help ourselves. So,
Well, and I think too, when you're in a relationship with somebody, it's not about you. It's not all about you.
mm-mm.
And that's what I feel like so many times in relationship, there's one person, well, there's one person doing a lot of the emotional work. And it usually falls on the women. From my experience of talking to people, mostly women do the emotional work. And maybe that's a result of because we're brought up to be more nurturing and communal and that kind of thing. And guys are generally brought up to be the breadwinner and get stuff done and, be more goal oriented. But I feel like a lot of times in my own marriage, especially, he was like, well, I'm working, I'm making the money. And not that he contributed a lot to the household, the chores and, taking kids to sports events and things like that. But for the emotional work and connection between us, it was like he disconnected and just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's not how you resolve things.
No. Can you share your personal journey of self-love and healing? If you did a little bit during, but what about after your divorce? How did you get through
Well,
that?
actually, a lot of my healing was before my divorce even happened,
Okay.
because I decided probably, well, he was out of work. He was out of work. And so I had a couple lawyers say, if you get divorced right now, you're going to have to pay him. And I'm like, what? He's been the breadwinner for the last 18, 19, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden wait a second. No, that didn't make any sense to me. So, I kept my mouth shut and I just stayed. And I said, I need to go on my own healing journey. I know I need to start creating my own sense of peace, my own sense of joy, my own sense of independence.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hold on a sec. And so I ended up, I've also been a flight attendant for many years, as well as a therapist. And I ended up working to Buenos Aires for about 6 years because I'm a dancer. I've danced all sorts of ballet, jazz, hip hop, contemporary, all the things. And I decided to learn how to dance tango. And so I ended up having 2 to 3 really good flight attendant colleagues that we would go and dance, take classes, dance, go to milongas, which are the dances that were
Uh-huh.
like all night, learn how to speak a little Spanish. And it was just this immersion of separation from what I was dealing with at home. And I could really just be me. I could be me. I could share myself, share myself in a more authentic way, because at home I felt like I had to be guarded. I had to watch what I said, had to walk on eggshells, all of these things. But when I was dancing and with my friends and, working, I mean, even at work, it was like, I
Mm-hmm.
can just be Dawn.
Yeah.
I don't have these obligations or responsibilities. So I did a lot of meditation. I did a lot of journaling. I did a lot of dancing, did a lot of self-reflection, um, really just caring for myself and becoming the woman that I knew that I was. But because of all the heartache and the heaviness in my house, I mean, my parents were like, Dawn, we don't recognize you. Like, you just look down.
Yeah.
And so, and out dancing and meeting people, it was like, oh, my light. I found my light again.
It's amazing what a change in environment can do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then I was getting external validation from other people like, oh gosh, Dawn, you're so kind, you're so nice, you're so friendly, you know, you're a good dancer, you're so beautiful, you're smart, you're this, you're that. And it was like all the things that I had wanted him to tell me.
Hmm.
He'd never tell me. He would
No.
just
And
say,
it's always
I'm
nice
not
to
gonna.
hear that. But if you've come from that situation, did you find it tough to accept that from others? I mean, it's always nice to hear, but did it feel a little odd at first?
No, I loved it.
Well, I'm not saying you don't love it, but I mean, yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, it was like, because I had been, this is one of the things that I had asked my former husband, like, can you just acknowledge me? Can you acknowledge me that I take care of myself, that, you know, I exercise and I work out and I take care of my body and, you know, I dress nicely. And it's like, I'm not going to blow smoke up your, you know what?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not what it is. It's just acknowledging that you think that I'm beautiful and that I'm desirable, which is what you want your partner to do. But it was not like that in my house. It was like, you know, you could be rude to me. And at the end of the day, it was like, oh, so we're going to have sex? It's like, what? Yuck.
Yeah, no.
That like, that's not romantic at all, you know? And so this was really a beautiful journey because I had completely closed down my heart.
Hmm.
So tango really was about me learning to open my heart again, because in tango, you dance with many people that you don't know. And especially down there, I didn't speak Spanish. So, and a lot of times they didn't speak English at all. So it was really more an emotion, like an emotional or chemical connection, hard to explain.
Yeah, dancing has its own language anyway, a
Yeah.
lot of times.
Yeah. And so to learn to like trust myself enough. This is it, learning how to trust myself enough so that I could go to a partner and be open enough so that I could allow him to hold me and lead me and move with me in a way that was an acknowledgement of how he was caring for me,
Hmm.
even if it was just, you know, 12 minutes on the dance floor. But I
Right.
felt cared for in a way that I hadn't felt cared for in my marriage. So it
Yeah.
was a really beautiful healing journey. And then, you know, through that, I mean, more experiences with my airline, and meeting other people, other cultures around the world, and just like becoming more of myself, taking care of myself, learning to love myself again and respect myself again and honor myself again and just saying, you know what, I am enough. Like all the messages that I got that you're not right, you're not enough, you need to be different. It's like I am who I am, and you're not appreciating and accepting all of the things that make me a beautiful person, you
Right.
know, not just externally, you know, because that's fleeting anyways, but all the internal things. Like I am super compassionate, really kind, very sensitive, and it's my superpower. You know, this is what makes me a great mom. This is what makes me a great therapist. This is what makes me, you know, a good podcaster, that I can listen to other people and have compassion for their stories. And so, you know, this is a huge part of this self-care journey, and returning to this sense of I love and accept myself because I am worthy of love. Not because I have to prove anything to anybody else, not because of what I'm doing for you,
Right.
which it felt in the marriage, it was more transactional love. Well, I'll do this for you if you do this for me. And it's like, that's not what unconditional love is.
No.
Unconditional love is giving out of a place of, I love you, I care for you, I want to do nice things for you. If you tell me that something I do is hurtful to you, I'm going to try my best to avoid doing that thing. And when I would tell him things that, you know, when you do this, it's hurtful to me, or when you say this, it's hurtful to me, and he would just continue. It was just like
There was no
the
respect.
there was no, it was, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
It was really hard because I was like, I know you love me. I know you love me, but your actions just and your words are not really backing up you know, it was exhausting.
Yeah. It was. Well, I know we're going to talk more about what inspired you to become a conscious love coach and transformational love and relationship speaker. But right now we need to get a word from our sponsors and we will be right back.
Already?
Already. Time flies.
We got soul, oh yeah, we got soul.
Hello, my name is Peter. I'm a Dharma Master. I teach Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy. What kind of Qigong do we teach? Well, it helps you to get your mind into your body and your breath very quickly. We really start off with quite quick movements to help cater for the busy Western mind, coming into stretching out the meridians, waking up the chakra system and the danjons, coming into Jigan meditation, which helps you to really focus on the energy in and around your body, bringing you into that beautiful calm state where you can sit and meditate really easily, whereas maybe before you found it really difficult. So Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy will help you get more in touch with yourself.
My name is Carmen Theobald. I'm the founder and director of Horse Sense North, and we offer personal growth, leadership and team development, and trauma recovery with some horse sense. Horses invite us to get into our bodies, to step into the fullness, the wholeness of who we are. They offer us a space to do that without judgment, and also a lot of encouragement that the wholeness of who we are is really welcomed and needed in this moment with them and also in the world.
And we are back.
Oh my gosh, I want to go on that cruise for sure.
I know. I was like, I love that tune. I always have that tune stuck in my head. I was like, can't wait to go. Yeah, Virgin Voyages, adults only cruise. I love those.
That's awesome.
But what inspired you to become a conscious love coach and transformational love and your relationship speaker? Because I know you have your podcast, which we got to put that up there too. You have a Wake Up to Love podcast.
Wake up to real love. Yep.
I'm sorry. Yes. That's Wake Up to Real Love. Yes.
I mean, I feel like I've always been a conscious love coach. I have. I mean, this is what I do. This is what I've done through my counseling journey. Every time I walk on an airplane, I'm counseling, coaching somebody. And really, I started my podcast because I thought if I struggled in my relationship and I have all the education and book smarts and professional experience, and yet I struggled, there must be so many other people that struggle in their relationships, and not even just intimate partnerships, but family of origin stuff. Because I'm a systems person, so everything comes from, how you were raised and what experiences you've had through your life. And so I just decided that I wanted to normalize all of the emotional things and mental health things that we don't talk about. I mean, even if you think about it, back in the 50s, Al-Anon was started. That was a big thing. Nobody ever talked about that. And then just in the last then the AIDS crisis came and people started talking about AIDS, and then people started talking about depression. And so it's like anxiety, suicidal ideation. I've interviewed a lot of people on my podcast that have experienced and overcome all of these things, sexual trauma, childhood trauma, abuse, divorce, betrayal, all of these things that make us hurt, hurt our hearts and cause us to not take care of ourselves, cause us to doubt our self-worth, cause us to, judge ourselves and put this protective fortress around our heart so that we don't get hurt. And I just realized that we all want love. All the hundreds and thousands of people that I've talked to all over the world, we all want love. We all want to be able to give love. We want to be able to receive love. We want to feel cared for. We want to feel valued in our communities and our partnerships and our families. And so, and then you see all of these horrible things that happen around the world because people are not taking care of their own emotional well-being. You know, I think that's what wars are about. That's what abuse is about. That's what any kind of violence is about. People who have a lot of these lower vibrational energies, you know, the anger and the depression and the frustration and the sadness and the fear and the insecurity, all of those things that we hold on to that we don't express, they always are expressed in negative and destructive ways. In my own marriage too, negative and destructive ways. And so I felt like if there's a way that I can help open up these conversations so that people, one, don't feel so ashamed about either something that they did or something that was done to them, right, or they don't carry a sense of self-judgment or self-criticism, because I think a lot of times people carry that inside and we just wear this mask to the outside world. Hey, how you doing? I'm fine. I'm fine. I did the same thing. It was like, I could be crying on the floor for 2 hours and then I have to go pick up my kids from soccer practice and everybody's like, hey, Dawn, how's it going? Oh, I'm great. I'm great. You know, like, no, I was not great.
You ever have someone look at you and say, no, you're not. Talk to me.
Well, friends, you know, friends
ones
did.
that know you really well.
That know me really well, you know. And so if there's a way that I can help normalize all of the stuff so that and provide, you know, stories, people sharing their stories of how they overcame the thing that they overcame. And I've heard really incredible stories that I think, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could have overcome that because it's so painful and so hurtful. But it just reminds me of the resilience of humans. And when you take responsibility for processing your own stuff and creating beautiful things in your life. I was thinking about it this morning. It's like, I've said this, like in the Scarlet Letter, you know, Hester Prynne, right? She carried the Scarlet Letter. Now, the guy that she had sex with, he wasn't wearing anything, right? She carried the shame and the judgment for that thing. And so I feel like a lot of us carry this Scarlet A or whatever the initial is for the thing. Right. And instead of carrying that Scarlet Letter, that sense of self-judgment and criticism, and, you know, rejection and insecurity, that if we can think of it as a badge of courage for what we grew through, so that you don't look at this situation like, oh, this was a good thing for me. No, it was a horrible thing. But what I learned from it and how I grew from it and how I grew stronger because of it and what I do to make my life better in spite of it, that's a badge of courage. That's a badge of strength and resilience and determination and empowerment. If we can start to shift the way that we think of the things that we went through, saying, oh, this is awful and I feel awful and I'm still carting this, you know, baggage on my back. It's like when we release that and we let it go, we let it stay in the past where it was, and we just remind ourselves of how I have become a better, stronger, more resilient, kinder, more compassionate, forgiving human being.
Right.
And if we can extend that same grace to ourselves, how much more beautiful is it when we can extend that same grace to other people as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That's like I tell people, everybody, you know, talks about failure or fear of failure. I'm like, I've learned to look at it as not a failure. It's like, it's a lesson learned. You learn, it's, you know, I would say you're only failing if you don't learn anything from it and you keep doing the same thing.
Right. You keep repeating the same patterns. Yeah. It's like, I've heard failure is feedback. And then I also heard last week, I think it's like you either win or you learn.
Yeah.
And so if you,
there's no losing. You just win or
yeah.
learn, keep
And so
growing from it.
I feel like when you're a kid and you fall down when you're learning how to walk, no one condemns you or judges you. You just say, okay, get back up. And the kid gets back up and they, try again and they try again and they try again. And for some reason, as we get older, we have that sense of judgment, that sense of, oh, I'm a failure. I can't do this. And instead of saying, okay, I'm trying, I'm making the effort, I'm learning, I'm progressing. It's like, even with my tech stuff, like I say, oh, I'm not very techy, but I published my first 60 episodes by myself. I figured out how to do it.
I always say you can do anything you put your mind to it. If you tell yourself you can't, well, then you're right. You've already shot yourself in the foot.
Well, I can't do a marathon because I don't want to do a marathon.
There's a difference between can't and want.
There's a difference. But if there's something that speaks to you, then I feel like we're all, if it's a dream, if it's something that you envision, if it's something that you hold dear to you, if it's something that you're continually taking steps towards this thing, that eventually it will become. It's like you're on, you're taking a trip, you're taking a cruise to the Caribbean and you have to fly from LA to Miami. It's like, okay, when you're in LA, you're like, oh, I can't believe I'm not in Miami yet on that cruise ship. It's like, no, wait a second. It takes some steps. It takes some time. But I feel like we all have these preconceived notions of how much time it's going to take. And if we could just give ourselves some grace to just be in the moment and enjoy the journey rather than just focusing on the destination.
Right. And look at it as a journey. Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
That our whole life is an entire journey. And so if you're in a place where you're not really liking the view,
change it.
the airplane, in the airplane, they say 1 degree shift changes the entire trajectory of the route. And so if you can change 1 degree every time, 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, then you're going to create amazing life for you. And as long as you're going towards the things that bring you joy and the things that light you up and the things that, like, oh my God, that cruise looks so amazing. I did this disco cruise a couple years ago and we danced like 10 hours a day and dressed all in disco, sequins and glitter. And it was super, super fun. And it was like, those are the things that you bring into your life to make your life the way that you want it to be. Nobody else can decide your life for you. I mean, you can allow other people to have power and control over you, but this is your life. What do you want at the end of your life to look back and say, I regret the things I did, or I regret the things I didn't do? And what kind of legacy are you going to leave for for your kids or for your friends, for your family, for the world at large? It's like, what kind of impact do you want to have in the world? Even if it's not like a big, public thing, it's like, you know what? I treated people with kindness. I smiled at people when I walked by. Hopefully, I have no idea. Maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe I lifted their spirits in just some small way. I mean, those little niceties, those little parts of being kind to humans, because we don't know what people are going through just by what we see on the outside, because I know that we all wear masks from time to time, but be a good person and then share that. I mean, it comes back to the golden rule: treat others the way that you want to be treated.
Yeah. And it can be small things. Everybody thinks it has to be so grand or on some grandiose scale. And it's like, it really doesn't. It could just be the small things, and it can change somebody else's whole day, or, make them smile, even just seeing people smile. Yeah. It's like, around here, everybody does the 1 or 2 finger wave, off their, I always tell people off the steering wheel, and it's not that you're number 1, it's, hey, how you doing? And if they don't wave back, oh, well, so what? I did, it doesn't really matter. Majority of them will, but some of them won't. It's like, that's okay.
Yeah, and I don't want the waves that angry drivers give.
Well, yeah. The number one
It's
single, yeah.
it's like everybody has their own frustrations or challenges that they're dealing with. And so when you express in an unhealthy or destructive way, at least you take accountability and you take responsibility and say, hey, I'm sorry I acted that way. Or I'm sorry I was a jerk. I didn't mean to. I was dealing with my own stuff. But it always comes back to taking responsibility for your own emotional, internal well-being.
Yeah, it does. So how would you say self-love and self-care served as a guiding light through the challenges you faced?
Oh my gosh. They were the cornerstone. I feel like they're the cornerstone of everything. In my podcast, we always come to this place where the message of my podcast is the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. So if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not loving yourself, if you're not kind to yourself, sure, you can show up and be nice to others. You can try to create, some good relationships. But if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not loving yourself, if you're not feeling good about yourself, you're not giving your best to anybody. Right. And so I feel like our whole life is meant to live in full expression of who we are, with full joy and full curiosity and imagination and fun, like kids on a playground that are just in the moment playing and having a good time. And I know we have responsibilities and obligations, but if you can always bring that same sense of love and care and kindness and concern and compassion and acceptance and forgiveness for people, when they're not at their best,
Right.
that it's all part of the system. You can't separate. So if I'm a jerk to you, that's going to impact you. If I'm a jerk to myself, that's going to impact the people around me. They're going to sense that energy. We're all energetic beings. And so how we show up, this sense of love and connectedness and this feeling really good. I'm feeling really good about myself. I'm feeling really good about who I am on the inside. And I'm expressing that in positive and healthy and constructive ways on the outside. And so if I attempt to do that, I don't always do it. Sometimes I fail,
Right.
but it's feedback. And I learn.
There you go.
And I learn, and I have to say, what do I need to do before that? Oh, perhaps I need to sleep better. Perhaps I need to nourish myself and eat a good meal before I show up at XYZ. I mean, all of these ways that we can take care of ourselves so that we can show up as our best selves and become the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
This is the life journey.
There you go. And I think that's pretty much all we can kind of ask for ourselves is to be the best version of ourselves, and it'll be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, in what ways do you think has your podcast, Wake Up to Real Love, impacted and empowered your audience?
Well, I hope in all those ways that I just talked about.
Well, yeah. Have you ever heard, do you get any feedback from them? Have you get a chance to speak with any of them or no?
It's funny. I get more comments from my guests than I get from my listeners, but I do have a few listeners that are like, oh, Dawn, I really like that episode because it helped me with, ABC, XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all of the things that I was talking about. It's that normalizing my struggles, past, present, or future. It's learning how to turn within. It's learning how to become completely sovereign in your own humanity, and I feel like so much of our world is disconnected from their source,
Mm-hmm.
their God creator source. And I feel like so many people are seeking these external things to fill them up, and really comes back to filling yourself up. So that's the self-love, that's the self-worth, that's the self-care, that you can learn to give to yourself in a way that nourishes you, so that wherever you show up, you are serving from a full cup as opposed to an empty cup. And when you do that, I mean, I said this when we were talking with Peter the other day. It's like, can you imagine a world where everyone felt loved, cared for, and valued? Like, what would be wrong?
Seems
What
like
would
our own
ever go
fantasy
wrong?
island, but yes, that would be wonderful.
Well, I know. I mean, I have been told, oh, you see the world through your rose-colored glasses. And I was like, I really like the view there. I don't want to focus on the other negative stuff, you know? So it's like, I have an optimistic spirit. I believe that all people were born good and things just happen to them that cause them to doubt that sense of lovability about themselves. And so I feel like our whole life is this journey of things that block us from feeling that love and connection and value. And our whole life is about unpacking that and relearning that I don't have to do to prove my worth. I just have to be. I have to be my best self. I have to love myself. I have to connect to my source and know that I'm a beautiful expression of the creator and that we're all each unique expressions of the creator. But if we're denying any of that, it's like we're denying the creation. And so I love when you see those photos that are holograms of all different people. And I think without one of them, it changes the whole. Right. And so if we can all show up as our little hologram and contribute in this positive way, because I'm feeling good about myself and I'm taking care of myself and I'm loving myself. And I know that I'm worthy of being loved because I'm giving love. And therefore I'm also open to receiving love. That what a beautiful world we'll create, where all people can be free to be who they were created to be.
Yeah.
In love, with love, through love, for love, love.
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 It's the 4-letter
Love.
word.
Love.
We won't go into that other song because I was like, I'll date myself and I know that other song.
We know John Lennon and Paul McCartney.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of them around love. So how do you teach individuals to heal from within and become the intimate partner that they seek in a relationship?
Well, the biggest, I have a little 3-step method. Can I share that?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quick and it's easy, but it's not simple. Or it's simple, but it's not easy because it takes work. It takes internal work. It's called the ACE method, to master your emotions. And so A stands for awareness. A lot of us live our lives unconsciously, which is why I call it conscious love, conscious relationships. Become aware of the emotions that are going on inside of you, and you feel them in your body. A lot of us disconnect from our bodies. We disconnect from our hearts. We stay in our monkey mind. We disconnect from our spirit. And so it's reconnecting to that sense of awareness. Oh, something's going on in my body. I feel like a punch in the gut. I feel powerless, or my throat's constricting. I feel like I can't express myself. I've lost my voice. Or, oh, somebody really did something to hurt me and it feels like this elephant on my chest because my heart hurts. And so when you pay attention to those signals in your body, emotions are energy in motion. When you pay attention to those energies in your body, you have an awareness of them. And after the awareness is C. C is for curiosity. So instead of judging them, you become curious. What is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to show me? If it's feeling badly about something, do I need to stand up for myself? Do I need to create some boundaries? Do I need to speak up for myself? All of those things where you have to process, what is this going on inside of me? And what is it trying to teach me? What do I need to learn, not ignore? And then the third thing is E for expression. And that is in healthy and constructive ways. So you could shake it out of your body. You can run it out of your body, go run around the block, go take a walk, go for a hike, go to the batting cages, go pound on some pillows, go box, go do yoga and meditation, something that can move the energy through your body. And creative expression is a great one. So painting, writing, dancing, music, building something, creating a nice meal, decorating in your house, any of the ways that we create, building Legos. Think of, when you were a kid, building Legos, building these things online, Canva templates, for creators out there, anything creative that helps you express, because you think of all the songs that have been sung about all the different emotions, all the books that have been written, all the love stories, all the stories about hurt and heartache, all of these things that we can create and put in the world so that you can positively impact the world through your creation, not the destruction. I mean,
Right.
Sure, you could go, actually, I heard this is a cool thing. They have these, like, I don't know what they are, spaces where they have plates and old TVs and, that you can go and you can just express anger, throw plates and, throw stuff and smash stuff. And, that would be kind of a cool anger playground, whatever you want to call it, where you're destroying things, but it's not destroying things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I've seen it in movies too, where it kind of looks like fun, where you put the paint on the drums, you just start beating and just start splattering paint everywhere.
Right.
You can make a mess and, get that energy out all in one shot.
So that healthy expression. And if you do that on a continual basis, awareness, curiosity, and healthy expression, then you get to know more and more what your triggers are, how to manage them, how to process them, how to communicate about them in healthy and constructive ways, so that all of this internal work comes out in a positive way with your relationships, so that you can master your emotions. You're the master of your life. You create your own sense of joy. You create your own sense of peace. You create your own sense of happiness. I mean, of course, people can contribute to them, but all the great teachers say, don't let the world affect you. You can be experiencing this chaos and up and down, and inside you can still feel,
So I always tell people, I stay in my happy place. I don't watch the news. I don't got time for it. I know what goes on. There's so much stuff that hits with social media. You still know what's going on. I don't need to drown myself in it. So I stay in my happy place, and what I can change, I can change. If I can't, I'll let it go.
Exactly. And your perspective is a choice. I mean, you choose to, am I going to focus on the good things and the blessings in my life? Or am I going to focus on the past crap or the current crap and stories that I keep spinning in my head?
Right.
And I mean, I did do that for a long time in my marriage. I spun in my head a lot. And then I decided, I don't want to be in this place. What do I need to do to get myself somewhere different? How do I need to change that trajectory 1 degree and 1 degree and 1 degree and 1 degree, and keep moving in that direction, so that I'm happy now.
In a happy place. We still have a few minutes left, Dawn. So what advice do you have for those looking to cultivate self-love and meaningful connections in their lives?
Love yourself. I know it's simple, but it's not easy. It's really loving yourself, looking in the mirror, and stop picking out your flaws. Pick out the things that you're proud of or that you appreciate. Dawn, you have a nice smile. You're kind to people. Write yourself. This is a good one. Write a list of 100 of your good qualities. And people say, I don't have 100 good qualities. Well, if you think about it, you probably could come up with, or write, this is a great one too. If you write a eulogy for yourself and say, how do I want to be remembered? Even if you're in a horrible space right now.
Right.
At the end of my life, right now, I'm going to write my eulogy for how I want to be remembered, what I want my life to look like, be like, what experiences I want to have, what kind of relationships I want to have, what do I want to build, what do I want to create, who do I want to become, what's the example I want to set, what do I want to be remembered for? And when you sit and write, things come out of you that you go, oh my gosh, I never really thought about that, or I didn't realize that that thing was really important to me. You know, if for me, I want to just share love. I want people to feel loved and cared for and valued. So if I'm having a conversation with you, generally speaking, I don't always do it. I don't always succeed, but I try to hold you and help you feel cared for. And this is another really good idea. If you find a picture of yourself as a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, and I carry mine with me now, and I remind myself if I'm feeling down about myself, or if I'm beating up about myself, or whatever the situation is, I say, what would I tell her? What would I tell her? What would I want her to know? How would I love her in this moment? And then you can look at people the same way. Let me see that 5-year-old in him, because I know he's having a 15-year-old tantrum right now, but how can I see that little 5-year-old that just wants to be loved and cared for?
Yeah.
So if we can learn to do that for ourselves, and then we can extend that same grace to others, again, what a beautiful world it would be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dawn, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. I have your linked up. So you're on LinkedIn. That is a good way for people to connect with you, correct?
Yep. LinkedIn,
And
TikTok, Facebook.
TikTok. Yep. I think, yeah, we got on your Facebook. Now on your podcast, where can they, other than this link here that takes you to podcast, where all is your podcast broadcast on?
Yeah, my podcast is on iTunes and Spotify and Google Podcasts and Breaker and Stitch, and I think a lot of the podcast platforms. And I'm really excited because some of my social media channels were hacked and suspended last year, and so I'm getting ready to relaunch in a couple weeks. And I have 106 episodes, so I hope that you people out there can find at least one that's helpful for you.
Should be able to out of that.
I would hope so. I mean, they're all different topics, and ideally I'd like to have a library of, if you're experiencing anxiety, go listen to these podcasts. If you're experiencing betrayal, go listen to these. If you're experiencing, depression, go listen to these. So that's my ultimate goal. But feel loved. Wake up to real love. Wake up to the love inside yourselves, and recognize that the most important relationship that you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And that sets the stage for every other relationship in your life.
Absolutely. Dawn, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura. You're so sweet and so kind.
Oh, you too. I love your energy. You're always such a pleasure to talk to. So as anyone should be able to tell, you're very easy to talk to. So definitely check out our podcast or reach out and connect with Dawn if you're struggling in any of those areas, because I believe she can definitely help you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you again next week.
Wake up to real love, everybody.